Hi everyone, it's Carol here again, and in this video I wanted to show you how we can create something that's a little bit more like a round shape. There's lots of different things you can do with this, but what we need to be able to do first of all is to know how to do a decrease. When we've done circles in the past, we've increased the size of our circle and we've increased it to make it quite flat. Now if you want to do something that's a bit more round, we do a normal increase as if we're doing a circle quite flat, but then we'll stop increasing at a certain point and we'll just do a straightforward one stitch into each one double crochet stitch or whatever stitch you're doing into each stitch all the way around, and it starts to taper a little bit. So we might do say 4 rows where we do an increase, then we might do 2 rows where we don't do any increase at all, then we might do another row of increase, and it depends what you want to make and what size, how round you want it to look. And then at some point you get to the place where you want to start to decrease, so you start to do the opposite, and we're going to reduce the number of stitches per row. So that's what I want to show you here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use something that I've started in one colour. I'm going to change the colour to make it a little bit easier to see the type of stitches, because there's a variety of different ways to do a decrease, the same as it is with every type of crochet stitch. So I'm going to turn this the right way around first of all. So I've got my inside where the thread is for my magic circle, and then on the outside here I've joined on a new colour so that you can see it a little bit easier. And as you know, when we do a magic circle and then we start to increase it, depending on the number of stitches in a magic circle, so for example this one was 6, each row after that we increase by 6. So the next row would become 12 stitches in the row. The next row would have 18 stitches and so on. And when we decrease, we need to do the same thing the other way around. So in this case, I've got 36 stitches in my row, and I would need to decrease by 6 for each row. Now don't worry about too much about how to work out your stitches, because I've got the details that I can show you, just the same as we did for the increase. But what we want to look at is how to do the decrease itself. Now one way to do it is to look at your stitch the way we normally would go into our stitch and do a standard double crochet or whatever stitch we're using. So we take the needle in to the stitch and we pull the yarn through. But before we finish the stitch, we go into the next stitch along and pull the yarn through. And then what we're going to do is join those 2 stitches together by doing a yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 3 stitches on the loop on the hook, or loops on the hook. Now I've still got my little end here that's a bit loose, so it doesn't look as tidy to start with, but that'll get better as we go along. So pull through all 3, and all we've done there is we've got 2 stitches and we've made them into 1 stitch. Now if I was decreasing this row, I would then do from 36, I want to bring it down to 30, so I would do 4 single crochets, so the first one is my decrease, so this is the first one, and then I've got 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I've got a decrease and then 4 stitches. So the next one would be a decrease. So a slightly different way to do the decrease is to look at your V on the top of your stitch, and instead of going under the V, we're going to just go into either the back loop, this is what they're called in stitch terminology, or the front loop of that V. So this next one I'll show you is how to go into the back loop. So we go into the back loop only, we pull up the loop, pull it through, and then we go into the next stitch, back loop only, and pull that through, and then we pull through all three. So we've created one stitch out of two. Now if you look at both stitches, so this is a decrease and this is a decrease. They don't look massively different. I think the first one looks a little bit chunkier than the second one. You'll be able to tell better when I do my next set of double crochets. So I'm just going to do 4 double crochets, and then I'm ready to do another decrease. So if we look at it now, you can see that this first one does look a little bit bulkier. This one is a little bit neater. But you'll see in the front of this one, there's 2 little loops here. And they are the front loops because we went into the back loop. You can see the front loops at there, front there. Now, either of these is acceptable. The first one that I did is the sort of thing you would do when you're still quite new to crochet, because it's not as easy to differentiate between the front and back loop when you first start crochet. But as you get more used to it, it becomes easier. So the next example, I'm going to go into the front loop. So we're going to do another decrease, which means I go into the front loop, yarn over and pull through, and then the next front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now I'll do my next set of double crochets just so that it makes the whole thing look a bit tidier. It tightens all the stitches together, and then we can come back and have a look at those stitches. So this is the one done in the front loop. This one was done in the back loop, and then this one was done through both front and back. Like I say, not a massive difference. The final one I'm going to show you is probably the tidiest one. This is just a little bit more fiddly to do, and it depends on whether this is the front or the back of your work. In our case, this is the front of my work. So what I want to do is go into the front loop. If this was the back of my work, I would go into the back loop so that it shows up better on the other side. I'm going to go into the front loop, but I'm not going to pull the yarn through. Okay? I'm going to twist the hook round, and I'm going to go into the front loop of the next stitch as well. Now that's why it's a little bit more fiddly. It's not always easy to get that. Now we yarn over and pull through, and yarn over and pull through. And that is one of the neatest ways to do a decrease. If I continue along the row doing my 4 double crochets, we can go back and have a look at it, and it's actually, it is possible to identify where your decrease is, but it's very, very similar to the normal double crochets, isn't it? So that would be the ideal, but you don't have to do that. It's not going to make a massive difference in the grand scheme of things. You know, when you look at that, it's not hugely different. And don't put yourself under pressure to think that you've got to make it look perfect. You get better with practice. Okay, I'm going to stop the video there, and then I'll come back and show you what this looks like once I've done a few more rows of the decrease.